Okay, this is a continuation of our soy nut course that we're providing to you on this webinar. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to be going through the laboratory scale steps of producing soy nuts. We're going to show you what kind of soybeans to use, how to soak them, and how to bake them or fry them. And also we're going to get into some seasoning application. So we'll have a lot of fun with this, and get ready, and here we go. What's really important with regard to soy nuts is the selection of soybeans. Here we have a couple of different types of soybeans, and you can see the obvious difference is size. Size is very important. The larger the soybean that you choose, the larger the snack nut that you're going to get out of it once you're done baking or frying your product. So here you see a smaller natto type bean. Those will work too, but you'll get a much smaller soy nut out of it. Some soybeans work better than others. Some have better taste, and some soak up and fry better. So it takes a little bit of experimentation on your part to select the proper soybeans. But in general, if you pick a fairly large soybean, it should work quite well for your production of soy nuts. And with that, we'll turn over to Mary, and she's going to talk about an important feature that you have to notice on your soybeans.
So one of the things you'll do with the soybeans is soak them. The hulls can fall off in the soybean, so you want to prevent that from happening to give you a better product. So here you see the hulls are intact. There may be a few the hulls are falling off. You're always going to have a few that fall off, but for the most part, these are intact. Over here, the hulls are loose on many more of the beans and kind of wrinkled up. So you just want to look through. If they're falling off here, they're going to fall off even more after they've been soaked and get into the fryer.
So what we're doing here is going to start the soybeans for a 12-hour soak. We're going to add in 1 part soybean to 3 parts water. So we'll start out with 500 grams of soybeans. That is close enough. So then we want 1,500 grams of water.
Choose that water that is either a soft water, softened with sodium, or choose distilled water. You can also select deionized water. In other words, the harder the water, the slower the soybeans soak, and sometimes they will remain hard if you use a very hard type water.
And there's approximately 1,500 grams. Then we'll go ahead and add the water to the soybeans. You want to make sure that the water is between 12 and 24 degrees centigrade, because what can happen if you use boiling water, hot water, the hulls are more apt to fall off. And so from here we will put a lid on and let them soak for 12 hours. So here we have our soybeans that have been soaking for 12 hours overnight. You can see that there's extra water left, which is good. The soybeans have increased greatly in size. And so now we'll take it over to the sink and drain the water. And then we'll give them a quick rinse. And you can see there aren't too many hulls that have come off these beans, so that's good. And here we'll let them dry for at least an hour. The drier they are, the better they will work in the deep fryer. Here we have our soybeans that have been soaked for different amounts of time. We have the raw soybeans that we've chosen that don't have many hulls coming off. And here we have a 4-hour soak and a 12-hour soak. So again, here's the raw. And then if you look at the 4-hour closely, you can see the beans have started to soften up. They're still pretty dark and not as well hydrated. And here you can see they're nice and white and fully hydrated. These are going to give you a nice crunchier texture. These are going to be harder. So it's important to soak your beans at least overnight, 12 hours. Here we have 100 grams of soaked and dried soybeans. We'll put them into the fryer. The fryer is set for 175 degrees Celsius, and it's going to cook for 4 minutes. Here I'm just scraping the soybeans away from the edges of the pan, gently as to not disturb the hulls on the soybeans. Here we're taking the soybeans out of the fryer after the 4-minute cook and transferring them to absorbent paper to dry.
And here after frying for 4 minutes, you see a nice golden brown. One of the popular ways to eat these is simply to put between 2 to 4% salt onto the soybeans, and they'll be ready to eat. Snack food manufacturers use specialized salt that adheres very well to the product. If you use regular table salt, highly crystalline salt, oftentimes the salt will not adhere to the soybeans.
So here you can see we've got some soy nuts we cooked just now, and these are some soy nuts we cooked before the soybeans were dried, so they were still wet. And you can see here all the hulls that have separated during the cooking process, versus here you have a few, but not near as many. So again, this is why you want to choose soybeans that have an intact hull in the beginning. For our post-cook coating, we'll be weighing out 2 grams of curry powder, 4 grams of chili powder, 2 grams of salt, and 92 grams of soaked and dried soybeans.
So here we've fried another batch, 100 grams of actually 92 grams of soy nuts, and we're going to put them into a container, and Mary's going to go ahead and season these.
So here I have the seasoning we weighed out earlier, and this is sort of mimicking maybe a tumbler or a panner that you may use in industry.
And these particular soy nuts are very savory, delicious flavor. They got a little bit of heat to it, and very, very tasty. So it's a good formula, and I'm sure wherever you live, you have your own specialized spices that you can apply to soy nuts. They're extremely versatile. You can flavor them in almost any kind of way. So now we're going to try these. This is a kind of a unique flavor for Americans, but I think in South Asia and Southeast Asia, they're very popular. So we're going to try those. Excellent.
Crunchy.
Yeah, crunchy and super good flavor. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you'll enjoy them.
So the first thing we'll do is make the tack blend that will coat the soybeans with, and will give it a sticky texture and allow the flavoring to adhere. So the tack blend contains 6 grams of lactose, 40 grams of maltodextrin, and 54 grams of water. Bit of a slurry here, and it will be very liquidy at first so that it coats the soybeans well, and then as it dries it gets sticky. The next thing is the honey glaze coating. It is 5 grams of the tack blend, 8 grams of honey powder, 8 grams of powdered sugar, and 79 grams of soaked and dried beans. And then put on the tack blend. And we're going to rotate it as you would do in a panner mixer. So there you can see they're nice and shiny, and it doesn't take much to coat them. They're pretty well coated. Next, we will mix the powdered sugar and honey powder together, and then slowly add it on a little bit at a time. And it's nice the beans stay separated. So then when they cook, they will remain separated. Now they're ready to go and be cooked. So we're just going to scoop the beans with the coating on it already and put it in the fryer and cook at 175 degrees centigrade for 4 minutes. So you can see these are nice and brown. They stick together a little bit due to the honey and sugar on them. They'd make a good cluster, and they're nice and golden brown. The sugars on there allow them to get browner. Here we're going to do 2 different batches of soy nuts. One will be pre-coating with the sweet honey glaze. So we have pre-coated the beans for this. And the second one is a post-coating. So first we'll roast the nuts, and then we'll add the savory curry chili powder on after. So here is the pre-coated honey glaze. And we'll spread them out on the tray. And here are just the soaked and dried soy beans. And we'll put it in the oven. It is set to 175 centigrade. And we'll set the timer for 15 minutes and hit the start to get it to rotate. And then we can watch them while they're toasting.
Here we're bringing the oven roasted soybeans out of the oven. And this terminology we use is dry roasting. And one thing you'll notice is that the honey roast has got a nice glaze on it because the sugar provides that glaze. Now the other non-coated soy nuts that we have here, we're going to take these soy nuts that are directly out of the oven, and we're going to coat them with oil, and then we're going to put a flavoring on it. And commercially, you'd apply the oil usually in a tumbler of some sort, but here we're going to spray oil on. This is just regular vegetable oil to give them a good coating so they're nice and glazed. And then we're going to add the seasoning. If you do not add oil on the outside of the roasted soybean, that seasoning would not adhere to the beans. And here you can see the end result. And the flavor difference between oil roasted and dry roasted. Dry roasted have a little shorter shelf life than an oil roasted. But if you use a nitrogen flush in your packaging, if you're doing a commercial product, you should be able to get a good shelf life out of these packaged products. Once they're coated like this, they look very similar to oil roasted, but many people like a baked product with less oil in the product. So depends on the manufacturing type of unit that you have. You can either use a oil deep fat fryer, an oil fryer, or you can use an oven to dry roast product. What you see here is our results of doing a little bit of laboratory testing on producing soy nuts. One thing you'll have to bear in mind is that your equipment is different than the equipment we used here. We gave some times, temperatures, and other information as general guidelines, but depending on what kind of equipment that you have, you'll have to experiment to find out the right conditions to make your soy nuts. What we have here is we're showing that the honey roasted, doing the oil fried versus the dry roasting. Dry roasting produces a little lighter color. And here we have the seasoned type product. And once again, the oil roasting is a little darker than the dry roasting. Whether you use a small laboratory fryer or even a kitchen fryer, all the way up to industrial equipment. You'll have to fine tune to get the proper product. But the good news is that soybeans that you buy from the United States are going to perform very well. They're going to soak up, they'll be very high quality, and you'll get a good product, and you'll be able to introduce this product into your populations to improve their nutrition and enjoyment of snacks. So with that, we're going to move back into the presentation, and we hope you enjoyed this.